Let's start with some numbers. After Sunday's League Cup final win, Celtic have now won 119 major honours, more than any other side in Europe and certainly the most in Scotland. Brendan Rodgers has now faced Rangers 20 times as Celtic manager. He's won 16 of them, drawn 3 and lost just once. Celtic captain Callum McGregor has never lost a domestic cup final as a Celtic player, either in the youth or senior team, a total of 16 finals. And finally, after picking up his League Cup winners' medal at Hampden, James Forrest has joined Lisbon Lion Bobby Lennox as the most decorated player in 137 years of Celtic history, with an incredible 25 trophies. This is the Celtic Exchange Weekly. This is Tino with a terrible sore throat. And this week I'm joined by a full house of Mif, Paddy and James as we cover the undisputed most successful team in Scotland. Mif, what's your take on this latest piece of Celtic history?
Oh, Tino, James, Paddy, it's quite the feeling. Probably a wee bit overwhelmed actually on the day of the game. It was quite a lot to kind of take in. I think part of that was the nature of the game, the way it panned out, the fact that it went to penalties. I don't think I could have taken much more. Unfortunately, I didn't get a ticket for the game. I was watching at the house, but we'll come on to that at a later point. But I think just to be able to sit and reflect on, thinking about it personally, where we were at when I was at high school, mid-90s, there just didn't look to be any way out, and we screamed for change. We got change. We got the right man, but he wasn't moving really fast enough for us at that time. Rangers doing 9 and potentially doing 10 meant the world to us as fans, but it meant nothing to Fergus McCann, as has been so eloquently put out on your podcast series that you've done, Tino. But the fact that we stand where we stand just now, even 10 years ago, it was inconceivable that we would be in the position that we're in just now. And I think the most impressive thing about it is what we know we now have. We have a solid structure underneath us. It's not built on a house of cards the way it was with Rangers' dominance. There is a succession plan in place, and it would take something truly seismic to change that. So we've almost future-proofed ourselves as well. Yesterday's game is the best way to do it. Not for your heart rate, not for your probably even for your own your own mental health, because it was a torrid afternoon, to and froing, lots of emotions. But to win it in that way is just extra special, and it's extra special when it means so much to you, and you go mad, and you go mad with all your friends and family. But it's extra sickening for the team that's on the other end of it as well. And if that's your biggest rivals, then so be it. You just thank the Lord that it's you that's come out on the right end of it. So what a day to be celebrated. And yeah, I mean, like I say, still trying to really process what it truly means.
Extra special and extra sickening. You're a bitter man, and I love it. I'm here for it.
That's the way it is.
James, I put an article out on Friday, or not my article, but something I posted out, and there was some various stats doing the rounds in it. One of which was that we're Celtic to go on and win on Sunday, which we know we've done. It's the first time since 1939 that Celtic have been on top in terms of the trophy count. There's no other way to put it. It's truly historical times we're living through.
Yeah, it is, But, it's not happened by accident. It's years and years of hard work. It's years and years of telling fans like me to calm down. We've got a plan, kind of thing. I was talking about it on the pre-match that Celtic have got themselves into such a stable position. I still think they could have done it a bit faster, but maybe wouldn't be as stable. And it's this stability that lets you build every year, add quality, bring in elite managers like Brendan Rodgers. Rangers are only ever going to struggle against us in perpetuity as long as we've got elite managers at the helm. I don't think they're ever going to attract that calibre of manager, and they're about to go on an austerity drive with their new CEO. So it's we are in the ascendancy supreme, and it's only going to get better. And for them, it's only going to be austerity and downhill. So just here to enjoy it.
Paddy, overall, I think it's fair to say that, as Miff alluded to, Celtic weren't at their best, but I think Rangers gave as much as Rangers could give, yet we still win. And I think it says a lot about the mindset between both clubs at the moment.
It does. I think we're looking at the end of that game and not happy with our performance, but I think there's a psychological edge there with Celtic at the moment, and taking the game all the way to penalties. I think I read Asim's tweet, thought it was spot on. It just didn't seem as if it was going to be our day at points yesterday when they got the equaliser so quickly after we thought we'd won the game in the dying minutes. And then even just the small things. We found out it was 2 coin tosses yesterday for
Coin tosses?
Coin tosses. There we go. We get there in the end. You can edit that out. So yeah, the 2 coin tosses that we had, obviously, one giving them the first penalty, and then the other giving it the chance to shoot down at the Rangers' end.
I always thought it was one, and you got one or the other.
Turns out it's 2, mate. Turns out it's 2. I didn't know that myself. But anyway, just small things like that you're up against, and probably I think a lot of fans thought yesterday, right, it's maybe not going to be our day, but I don't think the players thought that.
Yeah.
I really don't. And I think that when you look at the attitude of each penalty and you look at the quality of each penalty, there wasn't one that you said, oh, he got lucky there. I think they were all like too good to be saved. But the big player for me in that shootout is Kasper Schmeichel. Absolutely brilliant. And I love the fact that he was getting into the faces of them. I think we said this yesterday, you only need to get one player. You only need to get in the head of one player, and he done it.
You only need to get it right once and he can win you the cup.
And also, he had every one of them biting back at him as well.
That was great.
Which tells you they were on the edge.
Yeah.
They were right on the edge.
They were nervous, and he was the most calm, cool and collected character in the stadium. Watch it back. I'm pretty sure we've seen it a million times now, but he gets straight up after he saved, gets the ball before Butland does, and gets it back to Daizen Maeda. It's small things.
It tells you everything about the mentality of the players and the group as a whole. I had to laugh, and I tweeted about it after the game about the fans who managed to find themselves with Premier Sports advertising boards, and I was saying somebody's got to wake up with one of them in the front room this morning and wonder how it
on the
went.
mantelpiece. Absolutely.
Completely unrelated, I want to give a shout out to Kevin Duffy from Uddingston, who may or may not have been pictured with half a Premier Sports advertising banner after the game. Kev's a great guy. It's good to meet him. I met him at half time. To his face, he's stripping us, but thankfully it was a whole lot better day after. So shout out to Kevin, the boys there. Just to explain the format for today's episode as well, the usual format has gone completely out the window. No mystery goal scorer this week, no listeners' questions. We're just going to go big on everything that happened in yesterday's cup final. So for section 1, this section will continue debating the game, and as well as that, we'll look at the bigger picture following that 119th trophy win for the club. Section 2, the middle section, will discuss Celtic's heroes on the day and the key moments that won us the cup. And finally, in the last section, we'll talk about the manager and what's next for this Celtic side. This episode has been made available to all listeners here on Monday night as a one-off. It's not every day you make history, but usually it's only Celtic Exchange Plus members who get that early access on a Monday. So if you don't already subscribe, visit the celticexchange.supercast.com to see how you can support us this season and win yourself a retro Celtic away shirt in our big Christmas Eve draw. Miff, the narrative that's coming out, what's up?
That's Christmas. I thought
Christmas.
We're giving
the story that's coming about, and we get this all the time, we'll get you next time, we're getting closer, blah, blah, blah. The story seems to be in some quarters that Rangers were the better side. What's your response to that?
No, I don't agree with that at all. And the reason is very simple. Rangers was a good display, was a good defensive display. I think you must acknowledge that. They set up to stop us playing. They set up much like Zagreb had done previously. Dare I say they set up a wee bit like they'd done at Celtic Park. They set up traps for Celtic, and unfortunately for us, we walked into one. And I think everybody in the stadium and all those at home could see that happening, apart from Greg Taylor, unfortunately. But those wee things, there was wee instances like that all through the first half where you could see that if we had played an errant pass, Rangers were ready to pounce. But I thought Celtic maybe went into their shell a wee bit and stopped being brave and playing through midfield. And then the passes slowed down. We were going square at the back, and we ended up a couple of times just shelling stupid long balls and things. Now, it's about finding that balance, because it's okay to go long if you're under pressure. That's absolutely fine. But you need to strike that balance. And I think you could see players being frustrated with each other in the first half, because I think they knocked themselves out of shape a wee bit. And for a team that is quite regimented with its attacking shape and fluidity, that was lacking, and the players were starting to get a bit frustrated at each other. I think the goal just puts the cherry on top of what was quite a frustrating first half display. But we should already be 2 goals up by the time that chance occurs. There are chances that we have in the game that we've just not taken. I then think we go on to dominate the game, but concede a couple of really silly goals. There was no period other than maybe a couple of minutes of any sustained Rangers pressure. So I think to be the better team, you can say that Rangers' plan worked. I think we would all agree with that, because they've stayed in the game right up to the last kick of the ball. So their plans worked. But being the better team, I think there's only one team trying to truly win the game, and that's Celtic. And that's not me saying that as a a bitter Celtic fan or anything. I just think Celtic's style is set up to attack. Rangers was set up to contain and get what they could get, whether it was breaks, set pieces, whatever. And they did that. They did it successfully. So, fair play. But I think absolutely Celtic were the better team. But at times their attacking play was just a bit slack.
James, you definitely say there is only one side that we're trying to play genuine football. There's different versions of football, but the proper style which purists would enjoy would be what Celtic were trying to do. And definitely, you could debate across the 90, but definitely in the extra time period, there's only one team that's going out to try and win it. They were trying to stifle and, slow ball, free kicks and by kicks and cramp and taking an age with throw-ins. They were hanging on for penalty kicks.
Yeah, I mean, I think they were playing for the extra time towards the end as well. Just they wanted that going, and then in extra time, it was time wasting. It's time wasting going on all the way through the second half, I felt. But there was no real desire to create any passages of play, string passes together, or to show any real attacking intent. It was only Celtic showing that. I do agree. I think it was a spoiling setup. And when you're playing a team that's clearly better than you've got a manager clearly better than your manager, then you need to find a way to level it. And there's no real shame in that.
No.
But that's where Rangers are.
Yep.
They're a shadow of what we are. And they will deploy spoiling tactics. It's our job then to get around that. I always say, like, people complain about Ross County or Livy or whoever coming to Parkhead and setting up, low block. That's our job to get around it. So it's now our job to find a way past Rangers spoiling tactics. I think it was like Zagreb. It was messy. It was hard for us to find the passages in the pockets that we usually play in. But I think it's going to be a really interesting game for Rodgers and the coaches to analyse. And I think it'll be a totally different story come January.
Yeah, and Paddy, when it gets to penalties, it's just a lottery, and it's the cost of a coin, really, isn't it, when it gets to that?
Wow.
Can't edit that one out.
2 weeks in a row he's going for me, by the way.
I'll stay with you.
You're not alone, by the way.
Sorry, mate, I can't really make you out with that voice.
So in terms of there's various stats doing the rounds. Celtic have got nearly 800 passes across the game, Rangers 300 and something, various stats like that. But one really important stat for me, which tells you the difference between the two approaches, was Celtic had 3 yellow cards across 120 minutes. That's Kyogo, which I've still not worked out, actually. You can tell me in a second.
He goes right through Raskin.
Was Raskin not trying to pull him?
It's a reaction. But Balogun
somebody pulled him when Kyogo had spun. He get held back.
Yeah.
The ball then, in the next phase of play, the ball breaks to Raskin and Kyogo just goes in and swipes his feet from him. It's an absolute beauty.
Quite right.
Good.
Quite
I
right.
know. No, I think everybody approved.
Yeah. So Celtic's 3 yellows, Kyogo, Carter Vickers and Scales, and Rangers, and by contrast, had 8 yellow cards. And for me, Paddy, that just tells you everything about how they were approaching this game.
Yeah, but listen, I think also you've got to kind of look at our hunger and our determination in the game yesterday. I definitely think a few of our players didn't show up in the first half, and I think that there was a real frustration, and I think you're asking the question of who the better team is yesterday, and I'm not in any way going negative. I'm over the moon we've won, but I said to my brother that we didn't really deserve to win, and he asked me, does the Rangers deserve to win? And I said no. I just thought it was a really poor game of football that had 6 goals in it.
It was a poor game of football. It's a bad. People say, no, it's a great advert. No, it's a good contest. No, it's a poor game of football as far as football goes.
You've got one team just sitting in and hoping for mistakes, which they got, and you've got one team trying to play football but actually being too scared to go on the half turn like we've seen. I think it's testament to our character. We had to win in a different style, in a different way, and I love to see that. But we were on this show on Friday and we were talking about we should be confident with the football that we've played so far this season that we should go and win the game. Now listen, I know it's a cup final. I understand that there's a lot of pressure on it, and I get that it's different. We've got to remember these guys are human beings and they get caught up in the emotions of it all as well. But there's definitely players there that Rodgers will be after when they come back for their day off for not really turning up, in my opinion. Which is fine, because again, we set our standards really, really high, and I think that if Rangers have found the way to stifle us, we, like you have said, we need to find a way around them. But the thing is, for me, they didn't really lay a glove on us yesterday. They got their goals, absolutely, but it came from our mistakes and our negativity at the back.
And I agree with all that. I was going to say the big frustration is that around the 2 goals, the Greg Taylor's and Maeda's goal, we sprung into life, and in particular Nicholas Kuhn sprung into life, and he then all of a sudden was the focal point for all good things Celtic, and then it just fizzled out after maybe another 7 or 8 minutes, and I know it sounds very simplistic, but had it was more like us, and had we kept doing so, would have been kicking my gas.
The minute Yefty went onto a yellow card, we should have been on top of that for the get-go, but we didn't. It was until that passage of play in the start of the second half.
I think there was a real kind of slowness in us moving the ball out wide, and that's what created that sort of I don't know, made it a bit more turgid, our football a bit more turgid. I think Trusty has been brought in, maybe move the ball a wee bit quicker in skills, but at times he tends to kind of go back the way rather than play the positive pass forward.
I didn't see the options for him though.
But,
I thought
again,
I
think that's where it comes down to, like, positioning and all those different things. But like you say, Tino, I think that's an excellent point to make, is that when you've got a guy like Kuhn and he's in the form that he's in, and you can see that he's the one that's going to cause the problems, just get the ball to him.
But
that
to me says that Alistair Johnson was nowhere near fit, because he wasn't up at the pace at all. And that cut us off on the right hand side, ultimately for me. And I think it's actually quite a clever sub yesterday, and I feel for Austin Trusty, because I don't think he'd done too much wrong. But at the same time, do you go and hook Greg Taylor and then the guy's confidence is shot for more important games coming up?
I think that's a really relevant point, Paddy, and I'm keen to focus on it a wee bit later on, because it'd have been such an easy move to say, right, well, Greg, you're out at half time, and do what the fans were crying out for, but that's not how the manager works. Just in terms of Rangers and their approach, as I say, the yellow cards and all that stuff, from Philippe Clement's point of view, you said it's kind of an ideal scenario, because that kind of, the way it played out yesterday, keeps him in a job a wee bit longer, and that suits us down to the ground, I've got to be honest. He's now failed to win in any of his 6 games against Celtic as Rangers manager. He's lost 5 and he's drawn just 1. And James, I don't want to sound cocky about it, but you don't see that changing anytime soon, do you?
No, quite the opposite. I mean, yesterday's a cup tie, and cup ties can be, wars of attrition and turgid affairs, and just, getting to the end and getting the result. Football sometimes takes a back seat. In the league, we're 11 points ahead and we're improving. We're going to be coming to the end of this really tight 10-game period, and I think that's when you see a bit more fluidity coming back to Celtic and a bit more consistency in the lineups.
I think that's fair.
We've come through an awful lot. Fair. We've come through an awful lot with a trophy and the Casper Champions League qualification for the playoffs, and 11 points. In fact, we're 9 points ahead of Aberdeen now, so we've stretched that by 3, and we've got a game in hand. So we need to just keep the in terms of what we've been doing, but when we've got that freedom to then go at it in January against them in the league, that'll go on. I don't see them laying in a glove on us for the rest of the season. They'll set up exactly the way they set up.
I don't think they will at Ibrox.
They have to.
No, I don't think they will. I don't think they can.
Murdered if they don't.
I don't. The howls of derision will be too much for them.
I think they'll think that's their best setup.
They'll be expected to be front foot. There is absolutely no way Rangers will pull it at Ibrox. No way.
We were talking before coming on air about Russell, what do you call him?
Martin.
Russell Martin sticking to his beliefs, and sticking to his beliefs in various other managers. And this will tell you a lot about Philippe Clement, because that was as close as he's got against us at Hampden there. If he really believes in that and believes in himself as a coach, he will set up the same way at Ibrox. But if he wants to bend to the crowd and the pressures that they can put on managers,
but no one believes in that. It's just sometimes you have to do it.
You just got to go and win games, or try and win games.
I think that fan set, I think that mindset that they have with the way that they've set up yesterday against us, their fans are more than happy to watch that. They really are. They pay
right
for that every season.
Winning.
They're not changing that.
Turgid football, if it gives you a chance to win, it's okay.
On your point about getting to the end of this run in December, we've got another 7 games in January. We keep thinking we're going to this winter break again, but we're still in the thick of it. I think that's another sign for me that there'll be players ready to sign for Celtic.
Yeah, I think so. I think we'll do quite a bit of business.
Do you know, I've kind of set out the turn of the year as a kind of break point, but actually 2nd of January it's Rangers, and then it's relentless from there on in. Mif, the 3 of us were lucky enough to be at the game yesterday, but you had a different afternoon.
Yeah, it's slightly different for me. So it was my son's birthday, my youngest son. Interesting start for my youngest son on his christening day. We beat Rangers 5-1 at Ibrox, and on his birthday, we beat them in the League Cup final.
Love it.
On penalties, overtaking a supposed trophy haul that's the world's most successful, which is up for debate. But no, so with it being his birthday, bit of running about to do, party, etc. Back to the house, and for him that's listened to the podcast for a while, they'll know that Mrs. Mif is of the other persuasion. So we had family around, and family who were there for the duration of the game. from the other persuasion. So it was quite interesting. It's as quiet as I've ever been when I've been watching a game, because I was trying to just mind my P's and Q's and things like that. So it was what was already a tense situation, or would have been a tense situation, sitting in the house myself with a couple of cans, was made even more tense. But the roar that I let out when Daizen scored that penalty will have been heard many streets down. It was something else, and actually I was absolutely drained after the game, and I mean drained, because I it just shows you, people probably look at us as fans, Celtic fans in particular, because of the run we've been on, and say, oh, you must get sick of winning, it's too easy and all that type of thing. But one day we will lose one of these finals, or we will lose one of these big games, and you just don't ever want it to come. Yet, like the fact that it got so close yesterday shows you how much it means, how much you care, and how much you just never want to be feeling the way that they were feeling yesterday.
Yeah, it just never gets boring. Everybody pals at the end, all good.
Aye,
no boxing in the back.
There was plenty of Empire biscuits not getting dished out. It was off. It was off.
Fair enough. James, just to wrap up this section, notable amongst other things yesterday that it was first winners' medals of their career for Austin Trusty, Arnie Engels and Alex Baye. How important could that be in helping them settle further at Celtic?
Funny enough, that I was thinking about Baye when I saw him at the end of the game yesterday, and I thought, surely that gives him a wee bit of a, this is what it means to be a Celtic player. And does that give us any kind of edge in an attempt to sign him as he develops as well? Who knows? But I think it's all part of the process. That's why these players are here, to play in big games and win trophies.
Have you seen the unique angle?
No.
Baye is, as you would expect, a player based, but I love watching the individual reactions of players in those situations, and you can just see, specifically from him and Engels. I didn't catch Trusty on that.
Which goal?
At the end of the penalties, when they were running onto the park. It's absolutely fantastic, and you can see that it's just absolutely brilliant. And I think the reaction of Maeda is just so unassuming.
He was my favourite yesterday.
It was just so unassuming, but his reaction, his second goal is probably the most pumped up I've seen him.
Yeah.
In scoring a goal, he was as much as he gets. But you wouldn't have seen this. You may have seen it in the highlights. But as he was ready to hit the penalty, it panned to the main stand, and his wife and two wee daughters sitting, and his wife cannot look. She cannot look, and then when he did score, I think she's just greeting anyway. But it was absolutely fantastic, because every game you see him having a wee wave up to his family in the stand, and that is just what a guy.
My favourite bit as well, just obviously he wheels away to celebrate. He has a wee look at Beaton as if like, is everyone all right with that? And then he focuses on Schmeichel and just jumps on him. It's brilliant.
Yeah, brilliant. But listen, we're going to cover Daizen and then some in the next section. Let's take a short break. When we come back, we'll take a look at the key players and the key moments that won us the cup. Welcome back. As I say, we're now going to use this middle section to cover the key players and the key moments that won us that historical cup final. If I want to start with the man on screen, it's Casper Schmeichel. For goalies, and I know that probably nobody in the whole arena wants it to go to penalties, perhaps two figures do. It's your goalkeeper, it's your chance to become the hero. And I think you could see by the way he acted throughout that section of the game, he just absolutely lived for it. He just thrived in that environment, and he was the top man and the man that eventually won us a cup.
He was, and he definitely carries that aura about with him. He's in control. It's mad to think that as Joe Hart was departing, we were all making a lot of noise about the lack of activity on things. And Brendan's dishing out the texts for his Mallorcan villa to his friends to see if they can do him a turn. And we end up with Casper.
Keeper.
Aye. Right, just like it's the five chat.
Good game tonight, Kaz. You want to come and play with the Celtic?
Fancy a wee stint, Kaz. But we've ended up with an upgrade in Joe Hart. And I say that with absolutely no disrespect to Joe Hart, who was phenomenal for us. But we have a guy here who, over the course of the last maybe 4 or 5 weeks, has just produced massive moments that have resulted in Celtic winning games of football. So none more so than the cup final. And absolutely delighted that so soon into his Celtic career he has that big moment, because I think we can all see not only just how good a goalkeeper he is, but also what a leader he is as well. So definitely filling that void that Joe Hart left, because he was obviously somebody that supported Callum McGregor massively in that, and I'm just delighted for him. I love seeing players come to the club, especially when they're a wee bit older and get it, and he's definitely one of those.
Yeah, no doubt. James, despite the fact that Celtic are pretty relentless just now and just ploughing through fixtures, and we're on this ongoing unbeaten run. You know, it's bizarre to think that your keeper is actually continuing to be one of your main men, but that's exactly what it is. He's one of the most important players in this team right now.
Yeah, but the way we set up to play football brings the keeper out as a, you know, the starter of our attacks. So he's as much part of the attack as he has defence. That's always going to keep a player like that involved, especially someone who is so good with the ball at their feet, so confident, and able to take the ball in really tricky positions, like he did on countless occasions yesterday when Rangers were pressing quite well, and he's just managed to get us out of wee bits of trouble. Sometimes putting my heart into a wee bit of trouble and do so, but getting out of it at the end of the end. So huge. It's been a massive season signing for us.
Yeah, he's been brilliant. Paddy, we're going to cut through a few various figures that were so important on the day. So no time like the present in terms of Maeda magic.
Mm-hmm.
His goal to put his 2-1 up is incredible, and it's just so typical of him as a guy.
Aye.
Massive thanks to Nico Raskan for the assist, and more about him maybe. But he's still got work to do, and we know that his touch can sometimes be a bit erratic, but the touch to set him for the finish is perfect, and he just rifles it by Butland. And as Mif said, it's rare you see him get too animated, but he knew the significance of that goal.
I don't think he could believe it himself that he pulled that off. A great analogy for one of the boys in the group today, saying he's a Ferrari without anyone at the wheel. He's absolutely brilliant yesterday. I thought, like, again, I think Rangers done a good job in preventing us getting down the left, and putting pressure onto Tavernier and using Maeda as much as we normally do. But when it mattered, he was just ready. He was closing everything down. I think him and Kyogo were very good at that at points. But he knows the minute. He reads the game so well, and he knows that he's got a sniff at it the minute Raskin gets his body in shape to head it back. And it's the anticipation from Daizen Maeda that's making him so critical for us just now. Just a great goal, just a brilliant finish, and an incredible knee slide.
Perfect,
Yeah,
an incredible
perfect
execution.
Good conditions for that.
Very.
James, if Daizen Maeda were to call it a day tomorrow, he'd go down as a Celtic legend, wouldn't he? He's absolutely adored by the fans.
He'd need to. You know, he's been there on so many important occasions, and it's the heart and soul that he puts into it that, as fans, we don't really ask for much more than that. You know, obviously you need to have a level of ability, but see, if you're going to give your all, you'll always get backed by the fans, and he's got the ability and he gives his all. And it's phenomenal. I will say one thing, see his second touch to set himself up, I don't think he means it.
No, same. I agree.
He's trying to go direct, and it kind of cannons off to left, and it turns out
agree.
even better.
Lads.
He's then blocked.
He puts it on his weaker foot.
As the old saying goes, you're better to be lucky than good.
Oh, 100%.
No, I'll take it, but aye.
It's that, like Mif says, it's the celebration that I think he knows himself. Oh, yeah, beauty, I've got in there.
The finish is phenomenal.
We'll get back to Daizen shortly, Mif, because we're going to cover the penalty takers and the character they showed just to get us over the line. But I want to touch on Nicholas Kuhn. He's been such a big player for us this season so far, but we talked about the fact that it's time for him to arrive on this stage. When we were doing the pre-match, we picked out the fact that he'd scored in every round so far, and he's now done it all the way to the final. I don't know how many players have ever done that. I need to check on that stat, but his first goal against Rangers, and it's a really tidy finish. It's easy to blaze that one over the bar or whatever. He keeps a cool head when everyone around him is losing theirs, and it's a great goal to what we thought was win it at that point.
Should have been the winner.
Yeah,
should have been the winner. It's an excellent goal, an excellently crafted goal, because he starts it and finishes it, but Engels plays a massive part in it. And you know, I was really delighted for Engels, because I think there just appears to be this desire to jump on him and slate him. And whilst there are clearly elements of his game that they'll need to improve on, and probably just need to become a bit more physical for me. But that takes time. I mean, Kuhn's a poster boy for that. You know, so a bit of work will get done in his time before the end of the season, during pre-season, and we'll be fine with that.
I'll just ask you a quick question. What do you think of the mindset of some folk when Celtic go and make history, win their 119th trophy in 137 years of Celtic Football Club, and some people want to say, but we were turgid, and Engels is struggling, and this is that, and he should have done better, and Taylor out, but what's the mindset that makes you go that way rather than just celebrate the fact that Celtic have made history?
I think there's a few things run through that. I think there's the emotional reaction after the game, because your nerves are shattered and you've been all frayed at the edges, and you've maybe had a couple of cans or a wee half bottle of tonic, and you're a bit like, well, yeah, Rodgers As some folk might do. I don't know. I couldn't really comment. But then there's other bit as well that, some people prefer being like that when they go to the football rather than actually supporting.
Or
and
life.
I see it when I sit in the stands as well. Some of the shoots you hear are absolutely mental.
But once you go over the line, I get it in the moment. I mean, I wasn't best pleased with Taylor's assist for their first goal and all that stuff. But that's in the 90 minutes or the 120 minutes or whatever. Afterwards, just enjoy it.
I get it, but then, like, I can see the reason for being critical on players. I can understand that. I think that we know, especially I think we look at last season, we knew we had to improve. I think we're looking at getting into this January window and we know that there's still positions that need to be filled. I think that it's okay. I get it. There is that level at Celtic where all we know is success at the moment, and I've said it before as myself growing up, I'm spoiled what I've watched. Absolutely brilliant to see our dominance in Scottish football. I think from when Rodgers came in, it was 99 trophies we were on. 20 trophies since Brendan Rodgers became Celtic manager. Mm-hmm. That's incredible. And I think that there is that level, there is that domination that Celtic fans are now involved in and aware of, that we expect the best. We expect it to go to the very best. Week in, week out, we expect to blow teams away. Now, individually targeting and singling players out and having a go at them online or slating them is not a Celtic supporter. Simple as. You can be unhappy with performances, you can say that the player isn't good enough, we can realise that and we can agree with that amicably as fans, absolutely, but it's also just watching some of these guys like the likes of Engels, the likes of Taylor, some of the pylons online is just mental. The service that these guys have done. Arne Engels this season so far, 11 goals and assists contributions already in his first year, but people are on top of him because he's an £11 million player. Greg Taylor, everyone's saying he shouldn't be anywhere near Celtic. I don't think he's good enough for the position. I think he's given us everything he can, and I think he's hit the ceiling, and that's it. He'll not get any better. But you can't fault what he's done, and you can't fault the trophies that guy's got as well. So there is a place for it, but it needs to be done in the right manner.
Correct. And just a couple of things there then to pick you up on. There's definitely a place for it, but let's not do it the Sunday night you've won the cup or even the Monday. Park it till later on in the week and you can put your points across in a respectful way. That'd be the way I would put that. Just in terms of those two guys you mentioned, Arne Engels and Greg Taylor, it's funny how things work for a guy like Arne Engels, because had we saw out the 3-2 victory, which we should have done after Nicholas Kuhn's goal, Arne Engels would be hailed as the hero who came off the bench and set up the winner. And he was brilliant for it. He starts in his own half, does really well, like get the ball back to Ralston, who fires up to Kuhn.
Nobody's catching him as well.
Brilliant. He's pacey and he's athletic, and he's got the... And that's a guy who's, I would say, not quite on form, not firing on all cylinders, and it'd be easy just to try and smash that ball across the face of goal and hope for the best. He's too intelligent for that, and he knows he's got the peripheral vision to know that Kuhn's coming in, and he cuts it back from him, and the rest, as we know, is history. So I think real credit to Engels, and I think he struggled at times during the extra time. He took a couple of loose touches, and there can be an anxiety for a guy who's just turned 21 in a cup final in a hostile atmosphere. But as we know, and as we'll get to in the terms of the penalties, he showed immense character. For Greg Taylor, he makes a massive mistake for the first goal. Yeah. He makes a big mistake that could have led to 2-0 that Carter Vickers extinguishes. But he then has a character to come out in the second half and continue to show for the ball. Now, you can say what you want about his ability, and we've called his ability into question at different times. You cannot doubt Greg Taylor's character. And I think he deserves huge admiration for that, because he was the catalyst for us getting back into it and back on top in that final. So huge credit to those boys for different reasons.
I think just to go back to Engels, because that was where the conversation had started, I think, I'm kind of relaxed for the point of view that you can clearly see what we've signed. You can see why we've signed it. You might not be getting, right 10 out of 10 performances week in, week out, but you can see that template, that profile there of somebody that the manager's going to work with, and using Kuhn as a classic example of that can then improve them to the standard that he wants on a more regular basis. So that, I suppose for me, maybe I'm just not understanding. I accept mistakes are going to happen. Everybody makes mistakes. Every single player in the teams make mistakes, and guys like Taylor and currently Engels seem to get at worse scales when he was in the team regularly. These guys will make mistakes. Of course they'll make mistakes. But I agree with you on the point of Taylor. I think Taylor Taylor's probably at the ceiling of his ability. He's maybe just been stretched a wee bit too far at times. In fairness, I don't think Bai has come in and absolutely nailed down the starting slot, so that's no Greg Taylor's fault.
He seemed to be getting there until there was a bit of noise for Barcelona about coming back, and that's knocked him off his
So it's ended up we've had to rely in Taylor at times, and in some games he's done really, really well. I was a bit worried that it would just maybe collapse because it looked like he was really, really fragile in confidence. But like you say, Tino, fair play, got himself back up the park, done something about it, which is the only thing he can do as a footballer, is try to redeem any mistake that you've made. But I actually thought Bai was really good when he came on, and again he made mistakes when he came on. He tried maybe a wee bit too hard to be more creative rather than play safe, because I dare say that's the message that he got when he went on the park. There was a few times, Hatate in particular, he had wide open in the midfield and he tried to beat an extra man, but the intent's there, and I think as fans you're like, right, okay, you've come off the bench in a cup final, you're trying to make your mark, you're trying to do something, support him, even if he does lose the ball, support him. So that was the sort of mindset that I had. But listen, the fans are fans. Celtic fans have just got relentlessly high standards, but that's what drives us on. We don't, like, hence why we were at the front of Celtic Park chucking railings about when things were going south during the COVID season, is because we knew things were going wrong and we didn't want to accept it. And that's what I've seen that referenced online for many Rangers fans. When are we going to have a shark throwing moment? Because it's like, how much more of this do we need to take? We just simply
lots more.
But we just simply wouldn't take it. That's the point. Is we wouldn't let the club be run to a point where absolute shysters were just taking money out. Yeah,
absolutely fair point, Smith, and well put. James, this section is all about the big players and the big moments, and I'd argue there was no bigger player for Celtic than Carter Vickers yesterday, and no bigger moment potentially than when he found himself 4-on-1 and managed to put out that particular fire. And at that point, if it goes 2-0 Rangers, it's a long way back, but he absolutely stepped up, didn't he?
It's 4-on-1, but as long as one of the four's an absolute idiot and can't see two guys on his left, and you've got a chance.
That's mental, isn't it?
Terrible. Like, just nobody able to see that. You know,
who was it?
Big Manny, Ingerman.
It's the moment on screen.
And he's got two teaming down the left, and he goes right.
No, I'd seen that, but I thought you were assuming who, because he's on the right, is he not?
No, it's Bajrami.
Oh, is it Bajrami? That's it.
Yeah. So, but Carter Vickers just, he still has to do his job, and not a turning point, but a mini turning point in the game. That gave us a good lift, because Taylor was in all sorts of bother if that one goes in. I think you do get hooked at that point, just for your own good more than anything else,
It shows you how football, we talk about the bigger picture of football and sliding doors and all that stuff.
It's fine margins.
What a sliding door moment that would have been for Greg Taylor, because that could have condemned us to a loss, and Greg Taylor playing a massive part in both the goals. And what does that do to your Celtic legacy? But now he's a cup winner. I think there was pictures of his mum and dad cheering in the stands.
Prominent,
and he probably had a brilliant night last night.
And that's forgotten about in 2 weeks.
Yeah,
100%.
So.
No, listen, we know it. We've been speaking about it in this show for weeks, that the left back position needs to be looked at and confirmed pretty soon. But as I said, I do think our manager got it right with taking Austin Trusty off yesterday.
Yeah, it was an interesting call.
It's a funny one. Like watching it back today, I'm looking specifically, what has he done wrong?
Not much.
And what did Scales do differently when he came on? I couldn't really work it out. Unless you're saying he sacrificed him to spare Taylor, as you're saying earlier on, I can't really work it out still.
For me, I think not excuse the pun here, but I think the trust from Trusty to Greg Taylor was gone. And I think
that relationship.
He was going more to Carter Vickers, right. So we were moving it about the back too often. 70,
and then you exploited on that.
Yeah. Almost 70% possession in the first.
You could also argue. So when Rodgers was speaking about that move, he said that Liam's played in a few cup finals now, and maybe he just wanted that experience of cup finals in Scotland and the Hampden atmosphere, but also the fact that there's a longer term relationship between Liam Scales and Greg Taylor, and maybe they just know each other's game a bit better.
Possibly,
and maybe it was just to support Taylor through that. There might have been a bit of something there.
Scales, apart from the tackle, but obviously he panicked in that situation. I thought he was excellent at winning.
The tackle being the inverted commas penalty?
On the foul, the free kick.
Right.
You don't need the inverted commas, mate.
Let's cover that in a second.
But I thought Liam Scales had a great account of himself.
Yeah.
Himself yesterday.
I thought he'd done really well.
You can tell I was drinking yesterday, lads. Oh my God.
It's going to be hard.
Let's talk about
sweating a bit out here.
Let's talk about that incident that Paddy refers to. So it's where Liam Scales, it's the first half of extra time, Liam Scales gets a bit of cheer on his shirt. It's absolutely a foul. It's Celtic were right to be penalised for the incident, but should it have been more than a free kick? So I'll come around you in turn. What's your take on it, James?
So I was watching today, and Beaton's got a good view, but he's quite far away from it. And with that, you can't really tell if he's blown for the initial foul. If he has, ball's dead. The pull doesn't mean anything, whether he's in the box or out the box. If he's pulled it for the initial foul, that is it. And that seems to be the suggestion. I don't know. If Beaton hasn't called it for that and he's played it on, and Scales very, very poor in the incident, is pulling him and he's in the box apparently.
Paddy?
Aye, he kicks him outside the box. Hang on a minute. Mif needs to take this call.
Wow.
It's
4
our
years.
first ever.
4 years.
First ever.
Great ringtone. Paddy, carry on.
We'll just go for it again. And you know,
Getting
you're
hopeless,
letting
man.
Aye. It's a foul when he kicks him outside the box, but obviously it could have been a penalty if I think Beaton has blown the whistle, guys. I do. Aye.
Yeah, I'd like to watch it back. I know
You'll not be
back,
happy.
James.
No, but it's the rules, isn't
We
it?
are.
No points for John, the crown this one.
Me and James were in the North Stand at Hampden, pretty much in line with the 18-yard line at the edge of the box, and the initial response was, "Oh, that'll go to VAR and we could be in trouble here." Mif, what was your take on it?
Exactly that. I thought if this gets checked, it's a penalty. It didn't get checked, so I was like, hurry up and kick the ball into play. But I think that, listen, if he's blown for the initial foul, because there was a kind of trip,
Mm-hmm.
if he's blown for that, just like James says, the ball's dead, so it's irrelevant.
Mm-hmm.
But as the rules state, it's for if the foul continues into the box, then you would give the penalty. It's on the line, which is in the box. So I think I put it this way: if it was our way about, we'd be screaming for it.
But it's
100%.
two different bits of contact as well. So
Aye,
one's a kick
aye,
to the
aye.
legs,
Yeah,
one's
yeah.
a hold
Yep.
under the top. That's two separate acts. It's
Well,
not
I
one
think
foul.
Just to compound matters is the Tavernier Colin Rankin taking the free kick from
100%.
clearly a left footer's
100%.
position. This guy's over the bar.
Brilliant.
I think was it Yilmaz was
Disappointing.
over it,
Aye.
and Tav thinks I'm just going to go for this with my right. I mean, that is a hell of a challenge for a right-footed player to whip that round, and then some by a keeper like Kasper Schmeichel.
Exactly.
I thought it was a really poor decision by Tavernier. What will be interesting is if that incident features, and it should feature, in Willie Collum's ongoing VAR reviews. So we'll get the audio and the explanation in due course.
Apparently, there was a deleted tweet.
From
The SFA.
SFA
I
saying
think
Say
that
what?
was on your favourite Blue Sky. I think it's somebody's got the Scottish FA's handle.
Was that what it was?
right.
Gone rogue.
Right.
Anyway,
Where's Bhoys guy?
Your favourite?
to wrap up this section, I want to just put a quick focus on the 5 penalty takers for Celtic: Adam Maeda, Callum McGregor, Arne Engels, Rio Hatate, Daizen Maeda. Clinical, brave, full of character. Paddy, as you said, the big decision at that point, or the big swaying point, is the fact that it was down at the Rangers end. That is a real challenge.
Mm-hmm.
And every time you go to take your penalty, you need to walk what must have felt like 100 miles to get down there to get the ball, facing all that noise. And it was 5 phenomenal penalties,
Right.
full of bravery. And Mif, I know you were so pleased for Arne Engels, amongst others.
Yeah, I just as he was going up, I'm like, please, son, no, you. If it's going to be empty,
I
please
know,
don't let
I
it be
know.
you.
Yeah.
And to be fair, you know, for him still to trust his technique, trust his system, his process. In that moment, again, you look at that identikit of what do we need in a player, that resilience, that mental strength that he clearly has, and the trust in his own ability. That'll do for me. That'll absolutely do for me.
James, Brendan Rodgers, when speaking about it, said that it was all pre-planned. They knew exactly who was going to be taking them. They know that Adam Maeda will come on at some point and he'll be on the park if it goes to penalties. They know that Engels will be the same, that Callum McGregor will always likely remain on the pitch, and Daizen and Rio, I suppose, would be up for grabs. But it just seemed to be very organised, and the word I used there was clinical. It was just methodical, if you like.
Yeah.
You know, it was just go up there, get the job done, go and lift your trophy. Brendan Rodgers leaves nothing to chance.
No, and I think he's really happy now, the structure he's got around him, and he was very keen to point out the backup he gets from his coaches, so they must have a specific role within the right issue, right, you know where you're going, you know your technique, and the practice and the coaching they must do with these guys, because, I mean, they were 5, you know, if you're teaching kids how to strike penalties, every single one of those penalties is to be followed. I thought Rio's was the best of the lot, especially the pressure that was on him at the time, just lashed it in the back of the net, really, you know, the relief coming off him.
Great reaction. Great again. You don't
Got
get
us
much out
going
of
out,
him.
but-
Aye.
But as we were saying before we come on here, I think we're starting to see that side of Rio's personality. He's
Yep,
starting to kind of
absolutely.
mature, you know, a bit more seniority. He's happy to give out to players if they're not showing for him, and he's happy to give us a reaction letter from his penalty.
I think 2 players, Callum McGregor and Rio Hatate, both went big when they scored. I think Calmac gave a bit back to the Rangers crowd,
Yeah.
and then, you know, got Celtic on their feet, and the same with Rio Hatate. And I think that's important at that moment in time when the players need any sort of boost. You know, a wee 5% more here and there can make the world of difference, and that was huge. We've spoken at length about Kasper Schmeichel, and he was at the Madam with every one of those takers, but you only need to wind up one properly, and it was, unfortunately for them, it was Yilmaz that makes the error.
A very well struck penalty, by the way.
Who, you
I
must?
don't think it's a bad penalty. So,
I think it was great.
It was more
I
sclaffy.
No,
No, I thought, see when you watch a unique angle,
it's a good
watching a
save.
unique angle,
Honestly.
he's caught. I thought on viewing he's maybe dragged it a bit.
Yeah.
See if you watch the unique angle,
That's what I thought. But
he's caught it.
I tell
Okay,
you,
he's caught it.
you mentioned the word methodical with the players and just obviously the conviction at each penalty. I'm going back to Schmeichel again. Every penalty as well was very methodical with himself. Just it's the small things. It's talking to the referee. It's the placement of the ball. Him having possession of the ball after each one. It's you'll take the penalty when I tell you to. And I think you seen beaten a couple of times just so you need to move back, and he was moving back but doing it all very, very slowly.
Yeah.
It's just clever. It's very clever mind games, and I think that you seen that in between each one. He was the first person up and moving, and you seen every player, Rangers player walking up, the shoulders were down a wee bit, and like the nerves were there. Same with the Celtic players as well, but the one guy that was probably certain that Celtic were going to win this penalty shootout was Kasper Schmeichel, the way he conducted himself.
the moment he saved Yilmaz's penalty, most other goalies are off celebrating and punching the air. He goes to get the ball.
Aye,
That's
straight
his
up.
first thing. I'm getting
Straight
that
up.
ball
Give it
before
to
it
Rio.
goes to the...
Before Butland got it,
Exactly.
Butland's walking over towards it, and he gets there, rolls it to Hatate,
Yes.
and that's again, it's mindset. It's
I thought it was
brilliant.
so important, and I talk about these kind of tiny gains, you know, small things that make a big difference, and that was certainly some of them. You were speaking as well, Paddy, about the interesting thing between him and Stevie Woods. Most folk will know Stevie Woods is a goalie coach at Celtic, and before every penalty he was kind of signalling to Casper.
Aye.
He usually goes left or right and whatever else. That's an interesting side of the game.
It
isn't
is. I seen it with Joe Hart in the Aberdeen game in the semi-final last year. He's obviously got the proposed position for each player that's going to take a penalty. I don't know what you do for Butland, mind you, just anywhere, put up about 5 pads. But he's just signalling on his pad where he thinks it's going to go. And I think for the Aberdeen game, I don't think he get one right, but I think with the Yilmaz one, he definitely pointed the right way for that. But just a very, very good save. It's because for a guy at that age as well to get down, the way he get down, I think it's a really good save as well. But I thought he was very unlucky with the Hadji one. I do.
Oh,
I
yeah.
think
Fury
if
moves close to.
he moves right. And then realises he's opened his body up, so then shifts back to the left. And I think if he just stayed where he was, he would have got Hadji's as well, because that's a poor penalty.
But again, this just tells you that Brendan Rodgers and his coaching side just leave nothing to chance.
No.
That's just how they approach things. James, to round off this section, let's talk about the man on screen, Daizen Maeda. How are you feeling? And I'm standing right next to you at the time, but how are you feeling when Celtic's number 38 walks up and picks up the ball for what could be the winner?
I don't know, it's funny because we're talking about all the guys that were going up. You're going, right, great hit red ball, you know, clean striker, all that stuff. Dyson, who plays a striker, but can sometimes be prone to a bit of mercurial madness, you know, maybe just not
Bit of sclaffing. It's been known.
a bit unorthodox, you know.
I was sure I seen an interview with him saying
It's a miskick.
he'd miss it.
Yeah, there is.
No, for me.
Celtic TV.
I actually went back and watched it after he said
I've seen that. It feels lost in translation.
Aye.
It just sounded, I don't know.
I think what he's meaning is he's not caught it clean.
Aye.
Or he maybe was thinking about going to the other corner or something like that, because I went and watched it back.
'Cause
He's
no,
got
he's-
it as you like. Clearly than I expected.
To me, it was actually quite controlled because he's opened his body up as though he's gone and just dragged it across last minute.
You can see him giving Butland the eyes or
Aye,
there
aye.
while he tucks it in here.
He's
but-
surprised it went into
Trying
the
to get
bottom
my
left
fingers
corner.
as well.
Say again?
He's surprised it went into the bottom left
Aye,
corner.
he was as
but
shocked as the rest
I
of
thought
us.
it was put it that way.
And all that matters is it went in. Not one other thing
This
matters.
just went bananas. It was
But
great.
James,
Really
what
enjoyed
a special moment. And along with Kasper Schmeichel, he writes his name into Celtic history.
it. He does. And the favourite thing was he's obviously got the goal. He's just ran straight into Schmeichel's arms, and then they just start doing this like gleeful, almost kind of childish jump up all the way up
Yep.
the stand side,
He
which
do-
didn't start at the Celtic end, it started at the Rangers end, and got to us about 10 minutes later.
he done that leap into Schmeichel's arms like something for Dirty Dancing, you know, he just jumped in and got him to swing him about a bit. Let's take another short break. When we come back, we'll focus on the manager and the part he had to play in our historical win. Welcome back, folks. Brendan Rodgers has now won 10 trophies as Celtic manager, and in terms of a more detailed stat, that's 8.4% of any trophy that Celtic have won in our history. That's 8.4 over 119 trophies. He has complete control over the Glasgow Derby. 20 played, 16 won, 3 drawn, and just 1 lost. It's an incredible record, Paddy. And what is your thoughts on how he approached and managed that occasion yesterday?
I just think that we've run out of words for him, to be honest.
Mif's not.
No,
he's not
listen,
got a
well,
few in
I'm going to turn him now. I just think when you, as I mentioned to you there, he set a different level that this club has needed for a long time, and I think that he's a big believer in his own process. He needs a board that want to buy into it. He's very egotistical. I'm not going to hide away from that. We all know, and we've all heard some incredible lines from him. We've all seen some failures with some of his jokes that he's tried to pull off as well, his one-liners. But this guy just knows everything about not only his team, but any team he's coming up against. And I think that some people can say it's up to the players. Once they go over that line, it's up to them. All I can do is try and guide them. I still think that he's got everything about it. I still think he's in full control about what that full team is doing. That's been probably the last 3-4 weeks that we've went in after the first half, and he's probably had to wake them up a bit. I would say we've not been as relentless in the first half of football than we have been at the beginning of this season. But I still think he probably thrives on that. He probably thrives in those moments where, right, it's not clicking, I need to make a change, I need to utilise my backroom team and try and get the guys firing the right way here. And he just believes his own hype, and I think that's the massive bit for us. And I think that he's taking this club to another level, and I think he could take us to an even further level when it comes to European football as well. There's no man better for the job, and I said to the boys that tonight he's one of the best managers we'll ever see. But for our generation, I think he might be the best manager we ever see, and that is with all respect to Martin O'Neill and what he done for the Seville run as well. But I just think this guy's on course to mop the floor with that as well. I really do.
For most of your comments here, I was glancing at Mif
No,
because
that's fine.
it's really sticking in his throat. But I know you're right, and he knows you're right.
Aye. Here we go.
Just let me interject in that.
Counsel for the
He's no better than Martin O'Neill, all right?
I think it's different just because of the strength of Rangers at the time that he's playing it in the context of the Martin O'Neill comment. I say, but listen, because I don't like him doesn't mean that I can't admire him, and I can't say that he is a brilliant coach, and that I'm very, very thankful he come back, because if he hadn't come back, we wouldn't be sitting here celebrating the night, So, listen, he has become not my cup of tea. But that's my own choice, and that's just the way that I'm. What is undeniable though is that he is now a better coach than he was first time round.
I think so, yeah.
I say that because taking the squad that he had and taking the time that he did to impart his message to them couldn't have been easy, because it was a team that was set up to play in Angie's style, and there are subtle differences there for everybody to see. But to take the time that he did and show the faith in the players that he did to get it right, and to produce that run of form towards the end of his first season, or returning first season, because remember he left, was exceptional management. What we've then seen this season, and I say this, everybody knows my absolute adoration for Ange, but that run of performances of Aberdeen semi-final, Leipzig, first half at Ross County as well, I think, and there was a run of between 5 games where it was some of the best football I'd ever seen a Celtic team play consistently. So I think we're tantalisingly close to that sort of European breakthrough. But the key is, we're now halfway through this return stint. The key is he going to be around to continue building on that?
What have you heard, Paddy?
I seen this rumour last night.
No. I think that there's definitely Celtic will be thinking, hang on a minute, if you're going to go, can we get some money for him? I've got a suspicion he might have another contract in him, but I think we'll maybe get 4 years out of him. I think.
So the rumour last night is his new 3-year deal announced in January.
I never thought he would. I was saying, like, he did the press conference, he looked me in the eye and he said he was staying for 3 years, and I believed him. And you didn't believe him, but I believed him in that he wouldn't stay any longer than that. I think he has ambitions to do things in Europe for a continental team. So it remains to be seen. Maybe it's just a revenue protection side of things.
Could just imagine him sitting in Duolingo, couldn't you?
Aye, you can absolutely.
He's already fluent in Spanish, isn't he?
James, I want to ask you.
Of course, the Villa.
See,
Villa.
Want to ask you about a couple of important moments in the game. I mentioned it briefly with Paddy. Go on.
Just when you're talking, have you seen the David Moyes Real Sociedad?
It's the best.
Uno, dos, tres times.
We've
Have
been
you seen
saying
that?
him.
He's talking about the youth team. Have you seen it?
One of the
I'll
best
send you.
videos ever.
I'll send you. Right.
Have you seen him saying Eramendi? Eramendi.
He goes like,
It's like
and
McLaren.
he's like, they're like, have you been out to watch youth team? He's like, yes, I have been. Uno, dos, tres times.
It's absolutely brilliant.
Sorry, completely hijacked.
Send it.
I'll
And we'll
post
put
that
it, put it on our Twitter. James, as I said there, I want to talk about two very important moments in the game and moments where I think Brendan Rodgers really stepped up and made the calls which were easier to go against. So basically, folks, as I mentioned, wanted Greg Taylor off at half time. It would have been so easy to take him off at half time and say, not your day, you've made a huge mistake. I've got a left back from Barcelona waiting there. He doesn't do it. He doesn't take the popular choice. And then other folk, myself included, wanted Hatate off. I think it was the end of the 90 when I thought he was done. He was limping about and I thought it was his hamstring and he was hobbling. And Celtic, you made the point, there was no activity in the bench. They were aware of it and they just kept going. And I don't know if he'd got the message across that he was good to go. And I thought, this is going to be a disaster. We're going to extra time here and he's struggling. I would then debate that Rio Hatate became our most important player in extra time. And nearly was the guy that unlocked things. So there's two massive decisions, which Greg Taylor scores the first goal, which have paid dividend. And it comes from being a brave, headstrong manager who's not listening to the crowd, and nor should he.
No, but it's to your earlier point about sliding doors. You could have kept Greg Taylor on, and Greg Taylor says, "Tell you what I'll do, I'll give away another pass to put us two down."
No, I know.
And then that goes the other way. So I think it was a really interesting call we've debated earlier on about the relationship with Scales and stuff like that. The trustee was sacrificed, he wasn't doing much wrong. But he's obviously put thought into it because the easy choice is Taylor. I would have hooked Taylor and I would have had Bailly on because I think he just gives us more attacking intent. Hatate was a funny one because it turns out the injury wasn't quite as bad. It was he had a couple of kicks in the lower back, which you can move through. We saw the day, but you can move through. It's not a hammy or anything like that. You need to then go off. And also the fact that, and I'd pointed out before the game, we didn't have any midfielders to bring on.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
No,
I thought
way,
Holmes should have been on the bench, or if not Holmes, then someone, because our two attacking midfielders work so hard. The chances of them being out the last 90 minutes plus 30.
I was just trying to get the conversation
I know,
for Rodgers.
but don't worry, because I'm the guy that'll sweep back to Rodgers.
Segue right back in.
Just to finish on that section, he's now won, and we've counted it to double check, 13 of 13 at Hampden. Incredible record, so you just cannot knock that. And he's actually lost just once in 33 domestic cup games for Celtic. It was that Kelly game at the start of the season. 1 in 33. I mean, it's outrageous consistency. Mif, I've mentioned earlier on big games and big players, but the same also applies to the manager who he ultimately thrives on these big occasions.
Yeah, he does, and that's to do, with his rampant ego. But if you're going to do it, you need to back it up. If you're going to have that, you need to back up, and his record absolutely backs that up. And what is undeniable as well is the players are playing for him. Yeah. It's a litmus test for any manager. They're going in and they're buying into his coaching, they're buying into his structure, and it's reaping dividends. And not only is it reaping dividends domestically, we're actually starting to see the green shoots of that in Europe as well.
Yeah, it's brilliant to see. So great night for Brendan Rodgers, great night for the players, and great night for everybody involved. Cheers, Paddy. I'll come to you for your final comments for the week.
Just over the moon to get another trophy and just a great day yesterday with friends and family. It's what it's all about, as we've said many a time in this show. But anyone that tries to say to you that it must get bored, it must get boring doing this every season, it's absolutely not. It's absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, 100%. James, final comments from you?
Yeah, thoroughly deserved victory. I was going to say a thoroughly enjoyable day, but it wasn't. It was absolutely unenjoyable. Thoroughly deserved victory. First silverware in the trophy room. Only one team can win the treble now.
It's just true.
Love that.
Mif, last word.
Oh, that's class. Because Clement went big on that last year, didn't he?
That's right.
You went big on that last year.
I take it back.
Last word goes to you, Mif.
Well, listen. The nature of football in this country is that if we're not winning, then Rangers are. Mm-hmm. So the stakes are always extremely high in these games, and Rangers fans will say the exact same. So And in games like yesterday, it's just a reminder of you never, ever, ever want to be on the wrong end of it. And when it gets that close, it just gives you that even sharper reminder as to how thankful we are to guys like Maeda and all the rest of the players who fought so hard yesterday, even when things weren't necessarily going their way, to make sure that the trophy come home to Celtic Park. So long may that continue. Keep up the run of form. Hopefully culminate in a victory at Ibrox at the turn of the year. Put the league beyond all doubt. And then let's go for that treble.
Let's do it. But a brilliant weekend there for everybody involved with Celtic. So that wraps things up on this latest episode of the Celtic Exchange Weekly. Thanks to James, Paddy and Mif, and thanks to you for tuning in. We'll be back on Wednesday this week with a special interview with Hugh Keevans on the re-release of Twists and Turns, the Tommy Burns story, which has been brought back out 35 years since its original release in 1989 on what would have been Tommy's 68th birthday on the 16th of December. We'll also then be back on Friday with the countdown to kick-off ahead of Sunday's trip to Tannadice. And finally, if you're not already doing so, remember to visit the CelticExchange.supercast.com for bonus subscriber benefits, including ad-free listening, early access to the weekly show, and the chance to win a retro Celtic away shirt in our big Christmas Eve draw. But aside from all that, congratulations to Celtic history makers once again. Winning never gets boring. We'll see you again very soon.